Good morning students, we will continue with the chapter MS Access, and today we are going to discuss about the properties, about the field properties that you are seeing over here in the design view of the table. So certain field properties you can see: field size, format, input mask, caption, default value, validation rule, text required. These all are known as the field properties, and this is the property panel. So today we are going to discuss about this very panel, about this very properties panel only. So field properties panel, these properties are the characteristic of each field that will define its size, its formats, its validation, its data restrictions, and many more. So some of the properties that we are going to discuss today, the first one is the field size. The field size property will decide how many characters can be filled into a field. So a field size that has a text data type will take only 255 characters, and the range of number, that is, if you have the number data type, then also you will be having 255 characters. So if you are setting the field property of the field size and you have chosen the data type as the text or as the number, you are allowed to fill only 255 character. Then we move on to the next property, that is format. All the data types will have this property except if you have chosen OLE data type. If you have chosen OLE data type for a field, you will not get the format property. Rest all will have the format property. Now this format property will tell us how the data will be displayed in the table, how the data will be entered in the table. Like for example, if you have written this symbol, this means that our text is required. If you have chosen this symbol, that means the text is not required. If you have chosen the greater than sign, then whatever you will write in the field, if it is in the small case, that will automatically get converted into the lower case. If you chose greater than, then if you have written anything in the lower case, that is in the small letters, that all will get converted into the upper case, that is into the capitals. Now for example, if you want to display somebody's phone number but with the intervals between, with the separation between, for this the user need not to remember the separations. User need not to remember that the phone number is to be filled with the separation. The user will simply fill up the phone number, but your form, your table will convert it automatically. How? It will convert it because in the format, that is the format property, you have written this format. You have chosen the separation after the 2 symbols, after the 3 symbol, after the 4 symbols. So when somebody will fill up the phone number 912112345, this will be filled simply, but because in the field, in the format field, this property was set up somewhat like this, so automatically after filling, this will get converted into this one. Next property is of the input mask. Input mask is somewhat similar to the format, as your format is setting up the output display of the property. Similarly, input mask will also set up a similar property. It will not show anything else except whatever you have prescribed in the field, but only it is the case that here the text will get converted into the format at the time of entering the data, not before the data. Next property that we are going to discuss is the caption. Caption is the alternative name for the field. You have already learned that fields are to be given the name, like first name, like address, like phone number, and so on. These are the names that you will be giving. But beside this also, you can give some alternative names which will be stored in the system. And if you want to give alternative name to your fields for reference of the system, you will make use of the caption. Caption will not be displayed in the field name. It will display only the name that you have given. But for system, that caption will get stored. Then we have the decimal places. The decimal places will allow that what is going to be the type, data type, and what will be the decimal places where you want to put the decimal. You want to put it after 2 digits, you want to put it after 4 digits, after 3 digits, wherever in the decimal places you can prescribe that. So the user will simply enter the data without the decimal point, but automatically it will get converted into the decimal points because you have already set the property to the decimal places. Next property that we are going to see is the default value. Default, as the name suggests, that's something which is already specified. If you want that a field should display already filled values, then we will write the value in the default value. So you will not be in need of filling the value in that field, rather because the value was already filled in the default value, the value will already be displayed in that field. Then we have validation. Validations are used to set the condition values. When you have to set the condition values, we will give it a validation rule. That is, like for example, value should be greater than 10, value should be less than 10, value should be equal to 100. So whatever validation rule you will write, the user will be allowed only to fill the data according to that. Like for example, if you write validation rule is equals to 10, in that field the user will be able to fill only 10 as the value, not less than 10, not greater than 10. That is validation rule. Next is validation text. Validation text will give you the message, the error message. Like for example, I said that my validation rule was equal to 10. If I try to fill a value that is greater than 10, I will be given a message. And where that message is going to come? That message is going to come from this validation text. Whatever you will write in the validation text, that will be displayed as an error message whenever there will be violation of the validation rule. And then the next property is required. Required means whether the field can be left empty or not. If the field should be filled with a value, it should not be left blank. We need to click on the property of required and make it yes. But if the field can be left vacant, we can make it no. So it is one's choice. If the field can be left blank, we can choose this required as no. But if it is to be filled with the data, we need to make it required as yes. Next property is allow zero length. This is somewhat like required. If a blank value or zero length string can be filled in the field, it can be left blank, we can make use of the zero length. If not, then we will not make use of the zero length. Indexed. In the index, the record, all the records that are entered in the field, that will be arranged in a proper manner with the proper indexing, so that while finding the record or while sorting the record, your procedure becomes a little faster. Indexing, you all know that it's arrangement, a proper arrangement. So if we have chosen indexed property for a field, all the data that is entered in the field will be arranged in a proper manner. Next comes a very important thing, that is primary key. Now the primary key is what? Primary key is something that is used to identify the records uniquely. That means it will not let you to duplicate the records. Any field on which you have chosen primary key will not be taking the repeated data. Like for example, you have chosen roll number as primary key. Now no two students can have same roll numbers. In case if you will try to give the same roll numbers to two students, you will be flashed with the error message. So this is the work of primary key. Primary key will not let the duplication of the data. Now where to do it? How to set the primary key? How to make a field as a primary key? First we need to select the field for which primary key is to be given. You can see here teacher's ID. This we have chosen to make it primary key. We want that all the teachers should have different IDs. No teacher should have repeated ID. So this teacher's ID, we will right click on this teacher's ID. As soon as you right click on this, you will get the option of primary key. Click on this option. And as soon as you click on this option, you will find a key icon next to the field. This means now in this field, whenever you will try to enter the duplicate records, you will not be allowed to do so. So this is one way of setting the primary key. Another method to set the primary key is that again you go and select the field that is to be made as the primary key, then go in the tools group. On the tools group you will find this primary key icon. Click on this. When you will do this, again you will find that next to the field primary key appears, this icon appears, and this will become the primary key. So simply primary key is nothing. It is only making us not to duplicate the records.